Craigslist.io.
Hello everyone, welcome to the latest episode of You Deserve Fresh Lettuce. I am your co-host Rachel.
And I'm Delia.
And in this episode we're going to be talking about should you be dating multiple people at once to find the one. Mm-hmm. Don't forget, if you want to listen to our episodes, you can.
You can go on Spotify, you can go on YouTube, you can go on iHeartRadio, you can go on all platforms that host podcasts. And we will be there.
And you can also check us out on YouTube.
Subscribe.
Every
listen,
single Tuesday
share.
if you want to watch the shenanigans happening in real time.
Or not real time, in pre-recorded time.
Tuesdays.
But on Tuesdays, you could see us. Yeah.
All right, so let's get into it. Should you be dating multiple people at once? Just so you guys know, the reason we're coming up with this is because if you watch us on Instagram at YDFL Podcast, we actually did a few lives with some male relationship gurus who give us the male perspective, and they kept telling us that as women we should be dating multiple people at once.
I think in other words what they said is have your notes open, and that way you don't forget certain things that you talked about with this guy and that guy and that guy, and then not until the man gives you your title that you should be exclusive to him. Yes. And it made sense, because a lot of the time I think we sit there, we date someone, we take a lot of time dating the person, and it's like you don't want to, what we always say, like ruffle feathers or start, trying to get something out of a man to say like, well, what are we? So what are we doing? And the guy's like, we're just chilling. We're just going with the flow.
If there's no title, then you don't know where you stand.
Exactly.
And I think sometimes as women, we want to prove ourselves all the time. And there's this idea that like, we take the approach of like, I hope he likes me. I want to make him like him. Instead of us saying, do we really like
this
him?
Guy? Yeah.
Is this who we see a future with? And then where does he stand with that? And if it doesn't align, you got to be willing to throw them back.
Yep. Just, it's kind of like fishing. Sometimes you catch them and sometimes you just got to throw them back into the ocean. They're too small. You know what? It was kind of funny that we're talking about this because recently in the media, I've been seeing the whole Bad Bunny thing, right? Because it's the Bad Bunny kissing some girl. Yes. I don't even know who she is, but apparently she got her
looked
15.
Up, right? And then she freaking went for it.
And he went for it too, by the way, and stuck his tongue up her mouth and whatever. And I guess the guy that she was talking to, which they were supposedly in a non-exclusive situationship, he's kind of mad because he's kind of bashing her. He's like, I don't care, I never gave her a title. So everyone on the comments is like, well, dude, you never gave her a title. So she's entitled to do whatever the hell she wants. And she is entitled to date and be and do the things, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But oftentimes we kind of sit there and we're like, well, just in case, and I don't want to ruin what I have here, which is nothing, because he's not giving you a title.
Yeah.
You have nothing.
So we're not saying go sleep with everybody, right? But at the end of the day, some of you do have some moral standards, and you're like, wait a minute, Rachel and Delia, you're telling me out there, to go out there and get my hoe on. And we're not necessarily saying that, but what the gurus were saying to us is definitely be going out on dates, allow them to court you.
Right.
Some of you, I think, unfortunately, don't even understand what the word dating is. And it really means that the man is taking some initiative to take you out. There is an investment of time. There's an investment of money, whether it's dinner, movies, car, the fare, whatever it may be, a stroll on the beach. There's something that's not just, hey, come over to my house and we're going to watch a movie and hang out, and then that turns into making out and that turns into sex. That's not dating.
Right. And that's the thing that if you talk to people that are a lot younger, that's exactly what it is. It's like, hey, just come over. You can come over. Like, I don't do that.
And that's why that generation that's under 30, they literally say, I'm talking to them. Like, oh, are you guys talking? They use the word talking. It's not dating, it's not relationship, but they're doing all the relationship things. They're like hanging out, they're getting jealous of each other, they're having sex, but they're just talking. And so where is the incentive to then actually get the guy to then go, I want to get married. And when you think about the old days, right? And I like to go back because I was raised, partially raised by my grandparents, and they would always say like, oh, because in our days, and we know those days aren't around anymore, but you got to remember when some of the younger people are looking back, they're saying, oh, but back then they were married 60 years and 70 years. They also didn't do all of these things. Well, they just said, oh, he's a good man who could provide.
But they also didn't have the accessibility to the ex-girlfriend that you broke up with 6 months
social
ago
media.
on social media to be like, well, she's
Yes.
in Hawaii, she's with this new dude.
Too many
and
options.
there's just so many things that are in your face about things. And then, you know, in my opinion, I just feel like that's why the generations and that's why things are going the way that they are and people aren't getting married. And that's why there's all that whole thing is kind of dying out, because it's not the way it used to be, where it's like I could see a future with this woman and I really like the way she is. And I'll take it to a step further, kind of going on a tangent. Recently on TikTok, going about the whole marriage thing, there was a guy on TikTok that said, okay, there's a chart, and so it's like a date, and then sex.
Oh,
okay?
yes. Mm-hmm.
And then but that's for a man. That's like his graph,
the
right?
fourth date.
Yeah,
should
like
be
the third, fourth date, the guy wants sex.
Yes.
And so the woman is like date, you know, it's like meets a guy, date, and then it's at the very top, it's like marriage. And the guy is basically saying, nowhere in the chart does a man think he wants to go there. He
It's
just
not
literally
there.
wants to hit it, quit it, and then
Yep.
be done with it. And see, we as women, we're a little bit different, so we're a little bit more emotional. And then again, going back to social media, you see the one girl getting proposed to with
Yeah.
the fireworks and all that, and then all the girls want that, but then the guys are just like, I'm not doing that.
You know, everybody wants the wedding. Not everybody wants the marriage. The guys want a wife. We talked about this recently, but they're not ready to be husbands. You know, so there's a lot of that going on. But I think at the end of the day, if we're on the hunt, and here's the kicker: as women, we shouldn't be on the hunt, right?
Because we're not hunters. The men are the ones that should be the ones hunting. Yes.
And so at the end of the day, that's a tough thing too, because let me tell you, I'm more conservative.
Right.
I sit all the way back, and unfortunately, then what happens is the ones that do come forward are fewer and further between, right? Because they recognize there's something about me. We've been told this by guys at even like, you know, a restaurant or whatever. They're like, oh, she operates very different. And they recognize that. But that could instantly translate as she's more work than it's worth. And they want what's easier.
Right.
And they want to go with the flow and all these kinds of things. Women will go with the flow thinking eventually he'll fall in love.
Right.
And men aren't even thinking that way. So
like,
if you're going to
just a good time.
If you're going to be conservative like me, you're going to have a lot of lonelier nights. There's going to be fewer and further between traveling on that road. But they are pretty high quality. And when you get to know them, then I have to sit there going, oh God, I don't really like him like that. And then I know I have to be willing to let him go, knowing it's going to be a minute before the next one kind of goes through this path. Because if I put myself on the other path, there'll be a ton of people. Okay.
But I think it goes back to
hard.
what the dating guru said, right? Like, you just have to, it doesn't mean you have to sleep with everyone you date. You can go on a dinner date and just, even though you may think, okay, well, I don't really like him, but okay, we'll go on a date. Sometimes I think it's not worth your time.
That's where I'm at.
But the dating guru did say, like, or the guys would say, just go on a date.
Yeah, go on all the dates.
Check it. Just go.
Because he was saying like 50 dates a month, or it was like
something ridiculous, and then he made us do the whole list thing. Remember?
Okay, so we made a list, right? He said, go.
We did check it twice like Christmas. That's for sure. We didn't do it.
He was like, make a list of 20 things that you want in this person. So we were like, 20 things, okay. And then we sat by each other, her and I, and we're like making our list. And then it took us a while. We were all happy about it.
Yes.
And then I look at her and I said, oh, maybe we should make a list of 20 things we bring to the table. And then we were like,
crickets.
She goes, oh, but and like crumbles it up, and we were
I'm
like,
over this. Yeah, I'm not doing this no more. Not crickets. I mean, I know that we bring a lot to the table, but I mean, we as women, we like to believe that, not just you and I, but I think like the women out there, I think that you guys would like to believe that you bring a lot to the table, and you probably do. But at the end of the day, you know, you don't need 20 guys. You just need one good guy.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if a man's looking for someone, he doesn't need 50 girls. He just needs one good woman. And so I think it's just a matter of aligning with the people that want the same thing that you want.
That's exactly what it is.
That's what it boils down to, is like cutting through the BS and just saying, what is it that you want?
Yeah.
Do we align?
Like for me, I'm not the one. If you're trying to just kill time, I'm not the one.
Yeah.
If you are not marriage bound, if you're not looking for someone to spend the rest of your life with, meaning like you're like ready to grow old with someone and have like a companion, you're not there, I'm not the one. You're a guy that was married 20, 30 years in a stiff marriage, and now you're a 50-year-old in the clubs. I'm not the one. So it's like, you got to really, as a woman, not sit there going, quality or quantity. It's like you might be a quality person.
But I think there's this saying in Spanish that every Tupperware has a lid.
Yeah.
And so,
so true,
and it's literally what that is. So
Yes.
even though that's not who you are, like
Yes.
maybe there's this guy that you just pass up. You're like, never, not in this lifetime. I could never. And there could be that woman that's like, I can't
Yes.
believe I didn't meet you sooner. And that's the way
true.
sometimes it works.
And you could feel it. Like, I know that you and I have talked about this. Like,
Yeah.
I know within minutes, when I tell you, I can be in the presence of someone, and within minutes, I go, huh. And also within minutes, I could go, ooh, that's it.
Yeah,
like, no, like, it's not. He could be so nice. He could buy flowers. He could tell me all things. He could slide in the DMs. He could send the right text.
He could do
I
all the
can't be
things.
sold. I'm not going to dinner with him because at the end of the day, what am I doing? Opening myself up to be sold and convinced. So to
Yeah.
me, that's why. So I'm giving a different perspective.
Yeah.
So if you're a woman out there going, oh my God, I just don't see myself doing that. You're not alone. There's a few of us who are just like, but you have to keep in mind though that that's probably why you're more lonely.
Right.
It's probably why it's like for me,
Well,
I've been divorced
I really
a long
do
time.
think though, it's really easy to get someone in your sphere. It's really
Yes.
easy to just get someone to just like be a time
Yes.
filler if that's what you really want.
That's what you have to watch
but
out for.
it's not the quantity, it's the quality, right?
Yep.
And that's what it boils down to in friendships, in anything that you're doing in this lifetime. But you won't know unless you go. Like you will never know, unless you
I know
go.
within 5 minutes.
No, I understand that, but
But not everybody does.
But not if you're not dating. If you're
Yeah.
not actively dating, then how would you know if you're
You
not
know.
going?
You know.
But if you're not, I know. But if you're like stagnant for a couple of years,
No,
and you're
you
not
know.
dating. But if you're not
You
dating
know.
anybody,
You
like
know.
you know
You
what?
know.
What
The
did
moment you
know?
talk to them, the moment you
No.
talk to them, you know.
I get that, but what I'm trying to say, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
You would know.
You don't have to go to dinner to know.
But you have to be out there willing to date in order to start to have the conversations.
But you know, I already
You
know.
would- you would
You
know.
literally like every day. Like for me, that I don't go on 10 dates a month. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, I'm speaking to people every other day, here and there, and I know.
Right.
And when people approach, whether it's digitally or whatever,
Yeah.
I already know. Like I already know. I can see what they post, whatever. I already know.
You know in your feelings
And then
of what it is.
and if I get on a phone call with them, then I'm like, oh, it's so crazy. Like,
well, I mean, I don't think everyone operates that way. Like,
Yeah.
if people are looking for someone, people don't already know. Like, that's why sometimes people go in a relationship,
Yeah, and they
are
wanna
in
try
a
it
relationship
on.
for an hour, a year,
Yeah.
a month, or whatever, and then you won't know unless you go. I mean, you know, but most people don't.
But here's the thing. I know we're kind of getting off track. I'm really of the school of thought that everybody I've met that either got married or broke up after a year or two, if they look at the very, very beginning, they were like, yeah, he wasn't really my type, but I thought I'd give him a shot. Or, yeah, he kind of did this weird thing, but I was like, oh, so
Going
if
with
they
the flow.
go to the beginning, if they go to the beginning, they'll see it. And so I've learned to tell myself, trust it. That little thing that you
Trust it.
have that's just like, I don't really, it's not,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like, if you know, you know. But
Yeah.
I think, not everyone is as fortunate as you,
Yeah.
Rachel. Like,
They have to go down the road.
90%
Yeah.
of the people probably don't know, and you won't know unless you go. So, like, you won't know unless you
Yeah.
actually go through the motions of, you know what, he looks like he has a great family. He's got a good head on his shoulders. You can go down the checklist. And maybe
Yeah.
there's things that you may not necessarily like, but you're like, you know what, but overall, over dinner, he's a great time. And sometimes, it may take a month or two,
Yeah.
and then you realize, no, I don't think so. I think
Yeah.
I'm good. And a lot of the time, you're not going to know unless you try it on. You
Yeah.
have to try on the relationship,
yeah.
try on whatever it is. But if you absolutely know, then don't waste your time.
I think that's what it
people
is.
will
It's
always
like
try.
it's a thing. It's either like a chemistry. There's chemistry, right?
Right.
And I think there's so many women that are willing to get involved with men that they don't have chemistry with. And
yes.
we're in a time of that. And what ends up happening is if there's no chemistry, now you're looking for all these other things that are psychological. You're making a logical choice, so to speak, instead of
Right.
like an emotional one, like, oh my God, I really feel some kind of way. And you're going to have so many experts, like we've seen, say,
yes.
now if you get the butterflies, it's considered a warning and all this kind of stuff. We're in the most confusing time of our lives because
Are
it's
we
like,
not ever?
it is the worst.
It's like, today I feel like I'm a tree.
Yeah.
And you must talk to me as if I'm a tree.
tree.
And it's like, What
Yeah,
are
I
you
identify
afraid-
as
I identify as like
whatever.
non-binary. Like,
So I will tell you, we are being told by gurus, this is the whole point of this episode,
Yeah.
and by society and social media
Right.
and everywhere, that we should be going out with all these men that we don't have chemistry with. Like, we should just be for volume. Let's just go through the flow, go through the process. And at the end of the day, women, we are born with intuition. We're born with signals. We're born with these,
all the things,
these chemistry things.
yeah.
And all I'm saying is, for me, in the beginning, I kind of did that. But now, like, after I was like 2 years in, I started going, you know, I realized I did know. I realized
Yeah.
I do have a sense in the very early
beginning.
on. And so if you don't have that little attraction, that chemistry, whatever, it doesn't, to me, make sense to go, oh, I'll just go to dinner with him because you never know. Because to
Yeah.
me, I'm like, but we did know.
Yeah, but you will never know unless you go out there, honestly. Like, and that's why they're saying, like, you know, date the people.
They're saying go
do
on the
things,
dates,
go on the
yeah.
dates, because you will never know unless you do it.
But if
know?
if you do that route, you're going on dates with guys you don't have chemistry with. You already know if you have chemistry with them. You already know. If a guy comes up to you at the gas station, we're animals in a way. You have a little instinct like, oh, he's kind of good looking, or I love the way he spoke.
I think it just depends on the person. I mean, I think for you, obviously, you would operate in a way of like saying there has to be chemistry, but
Yeah.
I think over time it's like anything. I always say this, and I could be wrong, and you guys can correct me, but I think in life it's like whatever you pay attention to and take care of and nurture, like
where your focus goes, energy flows.
and that's what it boils down to. So if maybe the guy isn't all the things that you wanted per se, like maybe like he doesn't have like the pretty eyes that you look for, he doesn't have the look, or he's not tall and handsome and all the things.
It's just a feeling, yeah.
But then all of a sudden he's making sure you're okay. He's always checking in on you and making sure you have like, you know, like the plant, the vitamins, and you're getting the sun, and he's constantly checking in on you, and you start to think like, wow, this guy's pretty awesome. Like, I would never think this is how he would be, but wow, that's awesome. And that's, I think, eventually it starts. And I'm not saying people need to grow on you, but I'm saying
we're going down the fungus route.
So I think
The
everyone is different, right? So everyone is different, but
there is a generation of people before us that they said, grandmothers or whatever,
Right.
who said, you know, he comes from a good family, he seems like a good provider, and he seems like a good person. Over time, the love will come. There's that whole thing. There's arranged marriages that the people love each other very much.
I was just going to say that. Arranged
and
marriages.
I think that what we're getting at, because you're coming from that and I'm coming from the opposite, and I think that what the good perspective about this that women should take away is just know your intent.
Right.
Are you willing to let someone grow on you? Then you're going to have to go through volume and do those checklists.
Right.
Or are you a love bug? Are you wanting to truly have that chemistry and that unspoken attraction? There's something there spiritually that you could feel right away from the beginning. It's like lightning striking. If you hold out for that, then just know, no matter which one you choose, you're going to have issues.
But
you're going to have
sometimes
things,
you'll feel what you're saying, and then the person, unfortunately, then you find out is probably, you know, like you'll meet, like for me, it's happened to me a couple of times where I meet someone and it's just an undeniable attraction. You're like, oh my gosh, what is this? And then later I find out the freaking guy's married.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, he's unavailable. So what good does that energy do me if he's unavailable?
It reduces the number. So it basically says, so here's what it is. You have to have standards in your life.
Of course.
If chemistry is not a standard, then that's okay. There's a lot of people that chemistry is not a standard.
Right.
For me, chemistry is a standard. And the reason why, whether it's intellectually, spiritually, physically, whatever it is a standard because I understand marriage and life are very difficult.
Right.
And if you're going through things with someone that you genuinely don't find attractive, you don't have that magic spark with them, it's going to be difficult to have that glue, even when you're intimate with them. It's just more transactional and performance-based.
But why do you think arranged marriages like last so long compared to doing this whole, oh, he's my twin flame and doing this whole thing?
Oh, that's a whole other thing.
But like, you know, that's a feeling too, you know, being like, this is my soulmate. And I always trip out when people have that on their bio, like, met my soulmate, and then they'll hashtag or add their their handle to their significant other. And so, I mean, I'm just saying, like,
so
I know arranged marriages are a little different.
So I know a couple that they're 35 years, I think, married in an arranged marriage. And I used to ask so many questions of the wife, and then we ended up asking a lot of questions of the husbands over the years. They're family friends of ours till this day. Yeah. And they don't have that thing, but they've grown to respect one another, sort of, and they have an understanding, and it's a partnership. It's like if you met someone in high school and you're still friends with them till this day, you might fight, you might whatever, and then make up. So it's a different thing, and it grew on them, and obviously it's a person that they care about, right? Of course. And so it's like your ex, you can have, like, with me, with my ex, it's like, I'm not sitting here catching feelings, but I don't ever want something bad to happen to him. I wish him well, and I could be cordial and stuff like that. So I feel like they have this dynamic about it that's very different. Like when you're around them, it's very different. It's not as loving and nurturing, but it is very protective. Like you can't do nothing to hurt because he'll come out and he'll handle that. Like they defend you, they protect each other.
And it goes back to like the nurturing, right? It's like you nurture the relationship and then you want to protect it.
But does she wonder what it would have been like to be with the guy that actually gave her, the warm and fuzzies? Does he wonder he was actually in love with someone else when he was arranged with her? So we've had so many conversations. People can grow on you. If you have a neighbor and they've been your neighbor for 30 years, you're going to really care about your neighbor if they pass away with cancer.
Of course.
We're human and we're emotional beings.
Yeah, we are emotional beings.
But there is 1 in 1,000 that gives you a certain feeling, and that feeling is out the window now because people are willing to take a transactional approach and a high volume approach. And that's okay too if you're comfortable with this ideal of like, eventually the love will come.
Yeah, or the go. Attraction. I mean, I think what it boils down to, and speaking about this episode, I think it has to do with the fact that they're basically saying, just go, just do it, just go out there, just have the dinner, do the thing, just check it out, like just try it is what they're saying. And a lot of the time you already know, like
that's
you're
like,
all right, I'm getting ready, you're doing your hair, like this is gonna be a flop. And sometimes it is the I guess it's whatever you think that is negative, and if you're kind of already going in, if you're already going in with this whole negativity of like, here I am gonna waste my time, but I'm still gonna go out to dinner with this dude, and then obviously it's going to be what you think it is. Half the time it's probably never going to change. But
I think one of the beauty for me is that because I've really held that standard for myself to say I know what gets me going right from the beginning. And also I've said on the show too, I don't usually date strangers necessarily. Right. And so at the end of the day, there is sort of a system that takes place, and I already kind of know. And so if I'm replying to a text message or a DM, it's because I'm open to that person. Right. But if I already kind of know because we had a conversation or I see how that person operates, I could be cool with them, but I don't need to respond to all their messages, and I'm not a secretary all day long just going like this because it's a dead end street. I'm wasting that person's time.
And your time and his time. What I mean? Like, and why even do that?
Yeah, even if he's like, hey, I want to take you to this restaurant, I'm kind of like, I don't want to waste his time and money. Now,
money
I'm not going to say, though, if I went on the date with him, I wouldn't all of a sudden have a couple drinks and go, that went better than I thought. I just trust that based on all these people I've heard over the years and now doing research with the show, in the end, people look back at the beginning and they knew. And I just think if we trust that, we'll be better off. But the gurus are saying volume, 50 a month. Just keep going. It's transactional. It's a process.
Just do it.
So that you can Nike. Know what you like or
what you don't like. Yeah. And everyone has a different approach. And sometimes, it may work this way or it may not work this way. But at the end of the day, like, the only way you'll know is, like, again, is if you try it. If you go and you try it on and you just say, okay, this guy's not it. Like, next.
I'm gonna fight with Delia. You don't have to do that to know. You can know. You can listen to your feelings.
This could be really exhausting. I mean, only because, either way, like, obviously, we're still single, so for her, it's not working, and for me, it's not working either. Yeah. And, like, the people that I talk to, obviously, it's not working. It's, you go with whatever works for you. And if you're okay with it, I think as long as you don't have an agenda, like some girls, like I've heard, where they're like, I don't care, he's going to pay for lunch and dinner, and this guy's going to pay for this.
Yeah, what's that called? Like eating, it's called like you know how that, like the will work for food? It's like the dating, like you're going to go to lunch with one so that he can pay for your lunch, and then you go to dinner.
Yeah, see, that whole thing to me, that's not cool. Because like if you know for sure you're just doing it just to get a free meal, that to me is a little different. Like, there's no need to be like that. That's on
taking.
another level, honestly. Like, it's just karmatically, it just is not cool.
Yeah.
Like, if you know for sure, you're like, you know, yeah, no, I'm good. But, you know, over coffee, you kind of can gauge sometimes some certain people and what have you. But
I like that.
you won't know unless you're trying on the things and you're going
you
out
gotta
there.
have the conversations. I feel like you can have a conversation before you take that next step. And if you're a woman and you're like chatting with him on the phone one night and you just already know it's not.
So I'll give you a really quick story. I had met someone through a friend of mine, and then we were messaging on you know, social media. And he's like, you know, wanting to go on a date, and I was being, you know, pretty mindful because I obviously didn't want him coming to my place.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, well, I can meet you halfway, whatever. And so I get on the phone with him, though, and this is how sometimes you will know even just on a call, by the way. And respectfully to anyone that speaks this way, he gets on the call and he's like, hey, well, what time did you like? He's like, what time do you want me to go get you? Well, I had to go get my money, and I don't know what. And I am not trying to talk smack, but I was like, I am not going to be able to sit over dinner.
You should have went to dinner with him.
No,
You never know.
No, that I knew was not going to go anywhere. Because I was like, he's like, I had to go get some money, and like, you know, but what time do you want to meet at? And I was like, we're not going to meet. Like, I cannot sit across the table from you if you're going to speak to me like that. So my point is sometimes even over a conversation, so I will take it back to you, Rachel, that yes, indeedy, it's true. But sometimes, you know, if conversations kind of flow and you're like,
hey, if you're bored on a Friday night and somebody wants to take you out, go for it. But also just don't lie to yourself. Just remember how he made you feel
like,
in the very beginning.
Have babies.
Yeah, don't freaking lie to yourself, because what you realize in the very beginning, in the first hour, is going to come back and bite you in the booty.
Rear.
It will do it.
So we're not saying that I'm right, she's right, I'm wrong.
But
no one's right or wrong here.
But that's the view from both ends of the table. This is a little lonelier side, but I can tell you, I'm like,
I'm a little lonely too. Don't get it twisted.
Very lonely. All right, we're going to cheers to that. We'll see you next week. Cheers.